let's talk a little bit about open houses. So one of the strategies that we really have to deploy is that I want you to move from being tactical, where you're just trading time for money and that's just focused on buyers and sellers and only interested in talking to buyers and sellers who are interested in transacting now. And I want you to become a little more strategic. And a little more strategic means having a long-term plan that grows a business. You need to think about what you're doing in terms of being in business. And so one of the things that you should be doing is that, and the way that I always looked at it was every time I had a listing, that listing represented one listing equals 3 transactions. So if I list 10 houses a year, that should equal 30 transactions. The first transaction is the one that you listed. You got to get it sold. Now, your odds of getting it sold are much higher than why everybody else is closing 70% of their listings. You should be doing 90, 95% of your listings, okay? If you're using a 10-day strategy and you're moving them into the properly priced bucket. That's number one. Number two, that you should be turning that listing into 2 transactions. And the best way to do that is through open houses. So let me tell you something about open houses, first of all. Number one, only 4% of houses sell as a result of the open house and the yard sign. Just 4%. There are a lot of reasons to do open houses, but one of them is not to sell the house. Okay. I mean, there's a low likelihood that you are going to end up selling the house as a result of doing an open house, but sellers like it. So if you roll in with the 10-day strategy and you tell them that you're going to be doing open houses, sellers just think that open houses are a better way to sell it. Okay. Now, if I like doing 4 open houses, it depends on how busy you are. But if you're not busy, okay, you got 1 listing and you're just waiting, you got 2 listings, you're just waiting, you should be doing 4 open houses. Every listing represents 4 open houses that first weekend. I know it sounds like a lot, but hear me out. A Friday twilight open house, 2-3 hours long. A Saturday open house, a Sunday open house, and even a Monday afternoon open house going into the offer deadline of Monday. Now do 0 if you want. But the reason you want to do it, as I said, is not to sell the house. You will convert more listing presentations into listings by doing open houses because the home seller's impression that is better. But the reason you're doing is you want buyer and seller leads. When I would send new agents out, they're even experienced agents out to my open houses, I would sit them down, I'd text them, I'd get on the phone, however we did it, and I would explain to them, I appreciate you sitting in the open house, but your mission is not to sell the house. Your mission is to find more buyers and sellers that you can work with, whether or not they buy this house or not. And that should be your main thought. And most of you are going up with you have the wrong mission when you go to the open house. You're going with commission breath. Okay. You're going to the open house just trying to figure out how to sell that house. And what you should be going is look to make your sphere bigger. The reason you want to do 4 open houses is not to sell the house. You think well, I'm not going to sell the house. Open houses aren't going to sell the house. That's right. You're going because you want your sphere to be bigger. And the difference here is that people who are showing up for open houses are very likely getting ready to transact very soon. There are 2 or 3 types of people that come to open houses. Number one, neighbors. If a neighbor is coming to the open house and they disclose themselves as being a neighbor, the first thing that you should assume is that they are shopping listing agents. They're thinking about selling their house. They're coming there to interview you under the guise of looking at the open house. How you act, how you behave, how you present, they're sizing you up. And don't think about that. You have the wrong impression of them. Here's the other thing. The more people that are at that open house, when a neighbor comes in, the better you look as a listing agent and the more they want to talk to you because they want to understand what are you doing that's so exciting. So when you talk to a neighbor, you need to talk about what the great present, what the interest level is, and talk to them about, how many people are like it, how many people have seen it. Give them all that data so to demonstrate how busy it is. Okay. And how much activity you've been able to generate, and imply to them that based on the activity, you're anticipating multiple offers and that you think that you're going to be able to get. It's anti-buyer, by the way. You wouldn't say this to a buyer. You would say this to a potential seller, which is a neighbor. And you would say, we're anticipating, based on the feedback, I'm anticipating multiple offers already. We're hoping to have those. We've got an offer deadline set for Monday night. We should be able to do counters. And it looks like we're going to be able to get it in escrow, I think, above list price within 10 days. Well, if that was a potential seller, you just created a wow moment. And they're very likely to either say, well, I'd like to chat with you about selling my house right there on the spot. Does this make sense to everybody? Okay. Now, if it was a potential buyer, you wouldn't want to have that conversation. You wouldn't want to say that because you would discourage a buyer. But a seller, you excite. So neighbors, you looky-loos, you treat like sellers and you fluff it up. You don't want to make it up, but you want to fluff it up to create all this excitement and demonstrate all the activity that you're generating for them. Okay, that's number one. Now, for everybody else, the buyers that are coming through, number one, you should understand that a very high percentage of them are going to be unrepresented. Okay, they're uncommitted, they're free agents. So there's never been a better time post-settlement for you to get buyers, because there are a lot of buyers out there that don't want to commit to an agent. They want to be free agents. And a lot of them, especially if you're in a situation that may have a multiple buyer situation, if they show up and see that and they like the house, they're going to want to interact directly with the listing agent because the listing agent has the inside track. Right? So think about that. Now, what generally happens when you do an open house, and everybody knows this awkward feeling, they run into the open house, they walk around, you can't get to everybody. And so you should be guarding the door just to greet and say goodbye. And so when they come through the front door, they're like, hey, thanks very much. It's a great house. We'll be in touch. Well, that's kind of an awkward. And if you're there trying to convert buyer, you're stuttering and saying, you're like, oh, well, okay, well, thanks for coming by. Right. And they sneak away. Now, listen, you should be trying to register them at the beginning. And you say something like the seller has asked that we register everybody that comes through. And you should be trying to get names and phone numbers and email addresses from them. Why? Because they're going in your sphere. You're going to put them in your sphere and you're going to start marketing to them right away unless they tell you that they're represented. Now, if they're not represented, they go in your sphere. If they are represented, then you call the agent afterwards and let them know about the property. Okay, that's number one. Here's what you want to do before you go to the opening. This is how you slow those guys from going out the door. You want to have a conversation. And by the way, at the end, you should be taking notes on every one of them because you won't remember 2 hours from now. You should be taking notes on everybody that's storming out of there. But here's how you stop them. You do a little homework. And the homework is, remember, your mission is not to sell the house, it's to sell a house. So what you do is you go and you find all your competitive properties. You go into the MLS and you find all the competitive properties and you print out the MLS sheet and you put it in a binder in those little plastic sheets. And I call it your switch book, the switch book. And so when they come out and they're like saying, hey, great house, not for us, or it's great house, we'll be in touch, or great house, we're going to think about it. You know what they say. Before they awkwardly sneak away and say, hey, I appreciate you coming by. Listen, there are some other houses. I hand them a book and I said, have you seen any of these houses? And you show them the competing houses and you hand them the book. And now you stop them in their tracks. And now they take the book and they start looking at the book. And now they start engaging you. And you should be familiar and say, listen, there are other houses. This house isn't for everybody. And why my job is to sell this house, I'm also in the business of helping buyers find the perfect house. So I wanted to give you these alternatives. And then I get ahead and it slows them down. They say, oh, I've seen this. Have you seen this one? Because this one's really special. This one has this, this, and this. And you strike up a conversation with them. You at least slow them down and you have an opportunity. Very often my agents, the open house closes at 4:00 and they're out showing houses at 5 to a buyer who came to the open house. Maybe it's Monday, maybe it's Tuesday, maybe it's, how about I put a follow-up call, I get you some more details on this, I send you a list of properties, and we go out and look at them. But you see how much more effective that is? When you shift the focus to trying to sell the house to trying to sell a house, you really start to dial it in, and through that process, you turn one listing into 2 transactions, and ideally 3, because you're going to sell that one fast. And that seller is going to want to do repeat and referral business. Listen, let me tell you what you don't need to do in an open house. You don't need to walk them through the house and say, this is the kitchen, this is the living room, this is the master suite. You don't need to do any of that stuff. All right. In fact, if someone did that to you, you'd find it super annoying. All right. So you don't need to do that. Let them walk through the house by themselves. Put the valuables away and let them walk through the house. You're the host. Okay. You're not a tour guide. You think that you're actually going there to sell the house. You're not there to sell the house. Even when you got somebody super interested, you're not there to sell the house. And here's the reality: real estate agents don't sell houses. Real estate agents market houses. Houses sell houses. When somebody comes and gets into that house, whether or not it's by appointment or at an open house, they're making a split-second decision within just a few seconds of being in that house, few minutes of being in the house. That house is either speaking to them and they're getting this feeling, or they're getting that ooh feeling. All right. They're either feeling it or they're not. And you are not going to take somebody who's not feeling it, who doesn't have an emotional connection to the property, walk them through the house, explain all the little details. This is what sellers think, that explain all the little details and take them from a ooh to a, yeah, I'll take it. It's not going to happen. They either love the house or they don't. They either feel the house or they don't. There's nothing you're going to say or do as to take somebody that's cold on the house and make them hot. You might turn them from a no to a maybe. You might even persuade them to go from a maybe to a yes, but you're going to have to do that by doing a discount that's not in anybody's best interest. You can turn a no into a yes, but it's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars. And that's not why you got hired. You got hired to sell it for the highest possible price the market will bear. You're better off to switch them to a less expensive property. You're better off to switch them to a property that's got their update. So ask them, so what are you looking for? I like to ask them, what's this house missing that you were looking for? You know, I get a feeling that this house didn't check off all your boxes. What's it missing? And then you say, oh, have you seen this house? I think this might be better suited. Oh, did you see this house? This one's got a bigger bedroom. Did you see this one? The kitchen's already been updated. Oh, did you see this one? It's got a bigger backyard. And now you're in the solution business. You're not trying to turn a no into a maybe and a maybe into a yes. You're simply trying to sell a house to somebody who wants to buy a house, even if it's a different house. That's the business you're in, selling houses to people who want to buy them. You're not trying to talk people into buying a house that they don't want. Doesn't that make so much sense? So stop trying to sell houses and just focus on marketing houses, driving as many people through the house as possible. And when they're ready to buy, help them do that. And if it's not the right house, help them buy the one that is the right house. Make sense? Linnell saying, will the owner be upset if you're trying to switch them? Probably, if they're at the open house, and they shouldn't be. Okay. So they shouldn't be at the open house. But at the end of the day, you're not offering the switch book to people who are, listen, you know who's interested and who's not. You know how you know who's interested? They stop and ask you questions. Hey, how long's it been on the market? What kind of interest are you getting? Do you have any offers yet? The people who stop and ask you thoughtful questions like that, even if they're manipulative in nature, they're interested and you won't switch them, right? But the ones who are just, hey, thanks very much. We'll let you know if we're interested. Those are the ones you want to hand the switch book to and slow them down for a second. Is that right? Does that make sense? So you know who's interested in the house and you know who's not interested in the house based on whether or not they're asking questions about the house. If they're not asking questions about the house, they're not interested. You need to give them the switch book. If they are asking questions about the house, you need to figure out how to write an offer. First of all, when I do the 10-day strategy, this is a nuance that we don't talk about very often. I do go and show only. I tell the seller that I need complete access to the house from Friday morning to Monday night between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. So I'm going to book every point. Listen, if you've got a weekend trip you've been putting away, go away for the weekend, leave on Friday morning, leave it to me. I'll take care of everything. Come back Friday evening or Monday evening or Monday afternoon. You will get notified every time there's a point. I use showing time to do that. And I set showing time up on Go and Show, and I just show it like crazy. And then I do the open houses on top of that to make it more accessible. So agents are using showing time, and unrepresented buyers are just showing up at the open house. So you do both. I would say 60% of my sellers leave town. They go spend the weekend with grandma. They go to the beach. Whatever it is weekend getaways look like for you. Most of them just do that. And I have some of them, I said, you want me to keep you posted on the activity? And many of them say, nope, I'll just figure it out on Monday. Good luck. Go get them, champ. That's the kind of way it is. And I would recommend you do the same thing. Get control of your listing. Not only should they not be at your open houses, they shouldn't even be in the house. Say, listen, let's get it tight. Have the housekeeper come Thursday night, Friday morning, and then it's a model home for 4 days. Let me do what I do. And if you use that model home analogy, many of them say, yeah, that's a good idea. And that way you don't worry about dishes in the sink. You don't worry about beds being ruffled. You don't worry about animals in the house. They get the animal, it's just ready to go. What's the most effective way to market the open houses, gain more traction? So here, this is a good question. So obviously you put it in MLS, and MLS syndicates it everywhere. That's the obvious thing. But the one thing that I did that was a differentiator for me is I put out 15 to 20 signs, 15 to 20 open house signs, directional signs. And at the major intersections, I would put 4. I would put 1 on every corner. Because again, here's something that may not make any sense to you. I was not using directionals to get traffic. I was using directionals to get people to call. And I would put my directional signs out a mile away. Some of you are doing a block away. I would go a mile away, sometimes 2 miles away. Okay. And I would get as many directional signs as I can from all different routes into. If they followed it, great. Then there were signs along the way to guide them all the way to it. But mostly, I wanted potential sellers to see how aggressive I was. I wanted people to see my sign everywhere. And so if they were in the 5.5% of people that were thinking about selling, the 1.6 million Americans that are thinking about selling right now, I wanted them to call me. In many weekends, I would get sign calls. They say they saw the open house sign, but they wanted to talk about listing. They wanted to know how I listed houses. And I would schedule a listing appointment with them. So again, even yard signs aren't really designed about attracting people to the open house. Yard signs are about promoting me and my brand. So I paid $75 an open house, and I had a sign guy. I had $75, and he just kept his signs in his warehouse. And I would pay him $75 a day. He'd go out, I'd use Google Maps, and I'd write where I wanted the signs on it, and I'd give him the map, and he'd go out and put all those signs out for me. And then 3 hours later, he'd go pick them up, and I'd pay him $75. It's probably $100 now to do that. I was happy to do it. I just put it in my advertising cost. The bottom line is that open house signs aren't about driving traffic. Yard signs are about generating business and leveraging that listing. Because the one thing that I noticed, the one thing I know about my own business is that the busier I got, the more signs I had out, the busier I was. And particularly when you're trying to attract sellers, for some reason, sellers like busy agents. Buyers, not as much, but sellers like busy agents. And the busier you appear to be, the more attractive you are, the more they want to talk to you. All right. So listen, I'm really excited about open houses. I think these are super simple things that you can do to get better results. We're really focused on FSBOs, expires, and cancels, and texting, and getting them to respond, and that kind of thing. But really, when you think about it, the real value here is just having more conversations with people. So remember, if you're in a typical market, the national average is about 400,000. The average commission is about 2.5. That means every listing represents about $10,000. And so the idea is if you can just have 4 more conversations a month, whether or not it's coming from FSBOs, expires, or cancels, your sphere of influence, open houses, wherever they're coming from. If you can just have 4 more conversations a month, 4 listing presentations a month, 1 a week, by having more conversations, you can convert just 1 of those. That listing should represent $10,000. The extra deal you pick up from open houses or other places should be another $10,000. And then the repeat and referral business you get from wowing customers with the 10-day sales strategy should be another $10,000. So 1 listing actually doesn't equal 10,000. 1 listing should equal 30,000. Do that 10 times a year, and you made $300,000 in extra GCI. That's the way you need to think about your business, not 1 listing at a time, not 1 buyer at a time. All right. That's strategic. That's not tactical.